Hi, I'm Pete Maldonado, the CEO of Chomps, and I'm excited to welcome you to Chompcast, a Chomps original podcast where we'll have 15 to 30-minute fireside chats focused on the CPG industry.
And I'm Rashid, the COO. Together, we'll be sharing valuable insights, advice, and real-world examples with aspiring and current business owners. We're happy to have you here along for the ride.
Welcome to Chompcast, episode 15, where we interviewed Anouk Gotlieb, CEO and co-founder of Belgian Boys. Anouk, thank you for coming here and joining us today. Please give the listeners a little bit about your background and then tell us about Belgian Boys.
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Anouk. I'm originally from Belgium. You can hear it from my accent. I'm not from the US, but I've been in the US for the past, 12 years almost. And actually, my road to Belgian Boys was someone's plus one on the journey. My background is actually fashion design, and I really met a guy on a plane while moving to New York for fashion. And that guy is today my husband and the founder of Belgian Boys. Basically, Greg moved to the States also from Belgian Boys. And just like every expat, I guess, was bringing waffles, cookies, treats, like the things that he grew up with in Belgium for himself to enjoy. And his American friends in the dorms were like, oh my God, this is so freaking good. Where can we buy it? And you couldn't find it at that time. And Greg was like, well, maybe this is something I should explore. And my background in fashion kind of led to me helping my boyfriend design a logo and tell a story behind the brand. And one thing led to another, and here we are 8 years later.
That's really cool. So your background, so what were you doing in fashion? Were you like marketing, branding, or what was it?
I was designing. So I was like drawing dresses and sketching and sewing and conceptualizing. So super creative background.
Very good. I bet all that creativity kind of carries over to what you're doing here with branding, marketing, and all that.
Yes, but you know what? It's actually the funniest thing. So my background's creative. Greg's background is really business. So he went to business school. And today, Greg's the true, I want to say, entrepreneur, visionary, the idea, 100 miles away. And he's like leading that creative. And I do the business, get shit done, the team, P&Ls, financial. So it's kind of like we shifted kind of like, we really found our spots, but I think both our backgrounds help each other to elevate it.
So can you help the listeners understand what are your core product lines?
Yeah.
What did you start with, and how has it evolved?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when we started this company, first of all, we had no idea what we were setting out to do, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, you don't know, right? Really? And we just brought our favorite treats. So we started with a wide assortment from like the traditional Belgian waffle, which is that like super, unlike a American waffle, it's made out of fresh dough. So you have that, it's like very soft. It has crunchy pearl sugar in it. It's like, just so good. We had our Stroopwafel, our crepes, our pancakes. So really a line of breakfast staples, and then also cookies. And those products are still on our line, our breakfast line really being the, that thing that the consumer just loves, keeps coming back for, and is sparking that happiness and joy in those consumer households. And that's really super cool for us.
So I have a question regarding brand positioning and then competition. It seems like, are you guys the only ones doing these Belgian type breakfasts, or what is that market like? I don't even know what the category, what else is in the category?
So, okay, Americans eat, so you've probably shopped like frozen breakfast, right? Like that's how you shop, like Eggo waffles and all of those. And so when Greg and I first got into the market and we presented our crepes, our pancakes, our waffles, buyers told us like, oh, frozen breakfast. And I went to Greg and I'm like, what's frozen breakfast? Like I literally had no idea why you would freeze breakfast. Like you eat it every single day. It makes no sense. And growing up in Belgium, I used to shop for those items refrigerated. And if you think about it, where do you buy breakfast items in the stores? You buy milk, you buy eggs, you buy yogurt, orange juice, like literally on every American breakfast table. So why do you go across the store to buy something that you put in your freezer that you stock up and you take every day? Like, but buyer told us we're frozen breakfast. So we went frozen breakfast. Something in our gut told us that's not what we should be doing. We should be pushing what we grew up with. And I think, to your question, it is the product. Really, what Belgian Boys is doing is we are bringing those European foods to the mainstream US. Now, it's not only the actual product, it's also how does the consumer experience the product, that breakfast, that, little cookie with the coffee that you take, not on the go. Just sit down, chill, relax, enjoy your cookie with a coffee, but also the way that the consumer shops for the item. And so recently, in the last 4 years, we've really pioneered this new category, which is called refrigerated breakfast, creating a destination in America's retailers next to eggs. And it's been not easy. We started in 65 Walmart stores in 2019. And today that program is in over 4,000 stores in 4 years. So super excited.
It's not surprising. You make a great point about that. It's like, why would you go keep the frozen waffles and all that stuff all the way over there when you're at, great point. I didn't think of that.
It reminds me too of a little bit of what is it, Perfect Bar, right? Where the traditional bar, it's like, why, if you want a healthier option, maybe it makes a lot of sense though. Did you attempt to go the freezer route at first, or?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we didn't know what else to do, right? Like Whole Foods buyer tells you frozen breakfast, you go frozen breakfast, right? And I mean, we were actually performing really well in frozen breakfast. We're contributing growth to frozen breakfast, but there was something that we were like, we really need to go with our gut and at least try. And it took a lot of no's, a lot of tests. But right now, like we're really gaining momentum this year, especially like we launched at Whole Foods, in refrigerated breakfast, at Meijer, Fresh Market, Kroger, Target and Walmart. So really exciting what's happening.
So it sounds like this positioning is great because it's such a differentiator being in the fresh or refrigerated section. Mm-hmm. What does that do to the supply chain though? And how much pressure does it put on that? Because now you no longer are frozen. You have these kind of long shelf lives. Now you've got probably a pretty short shelf life. What is the shelf life now, by the way?
So our product has 30-day shelf life.
30 days. Okay. So that's intense. That takes a lot of management and probably pressure on the ops team. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how are you guys managing through that change?
Listen, it's not easy, right? Like, I think especially when you set out to do that, like, what does this actually imply, right? Especially when you work with like Walmart and Target. I think this was also a reason for, hey, let's start small and then scale really, really slowly. So Walmart, for instance, we were in 65 stores, then we moved to 300 stores, then to 700 stores, then to 1,000 stores. That's in a span of 4 years. The reason for that was really we need to get that supply chain really, really tightened, make sure our team understands how we work, from consolidations to the truck, to the temperatures, to the days, to the lead time sheets. Like everything is super, I want to say, calculated. And if you try to do it too fast, too big, I think it will fail.
Yeah, I can imagine. That just changes the entire business model, right?
Yes.
That's a big undertaking, but kudos to you guys. It seems like it's working. So
thank you.
Pete and I took a similar approach. I think when you think about the way we scaled our business, but the growth you saw was still fantastic. But especially when you're talking to others in the space or investors or VCs, they're like, they want to see this 10, 20x growth. But at the end of the day, it's better to grow controlled, to be able to build the foundation, which it sounds like you've done, which is fantastic. So you've been at this for about 8 years now?
Yeah.
What are some of the noticeable changes like that the business has gone through? Are you co-man or vertically integrated?
Yeah, we're co-man.
Okay.
I mean, there's been so many changes. I think for one, our team, which you're trying to figure it out on your own, which is great, but then you actually surround yourself with amazing people that are so much smarter than you and that you learn from every day, and you're like, oh my God, like this is like, I'm so grateful to have this team like around me that supports us and that like gave us a chance, right? And so I think that's one, but also how we marketed the brand and how we talk to the consumer. So I'll give you an example. When we started, we thought, oh, people want to buy this because they want to be reminded of going to Amsterdam or to Belgium, where they ate a Stroopwafel on the streets or a crepe in Paris. And I'm like, so everything was very like authentic, European and pastel colors. And what we learned is that that's not who our consumer is. Our consumer is that family that goes to Target on a Saturday afternoon and every kid chooses one thing and they shop for their weekly groceries. They've not been to Europe and most of them will not go to Europe. And they actually buy our product because it's quick, easy, and delicious. And the fact that it's made in Europe is just an added benefit. We had our Belgian waffle, for example. It used to be named the Liège waffle. Now, Liège is a city in Belgium where that waffle is traditionally made from. What we did is horrible. We give our consumer the feeling to be stupid for $5. Like you pick up the pack, you're like, what is that? I don't even know what that means. You put it back. You're like, that's terrible. Changed it. Traditional Belgian waffle. Sales went up. Everyone's happy. So I think learning and listening to our consumer, but actually applying and not saying, oh, I know best. I think we tend to overcomplicate things as founders.
When did you realize the gap? Because like when I look at your packaging and your lineup now, it's awesome. It jumps off the shelf. It's fun. It's playful. Like I think it reflects who you are as a founder, but also as the brand, which is awesome. But how did that unlock happen? Where you're like, wow, we don't know who our consumer is if we think this is what we should be calling it.
Well, I mean, I can't say it's one moment, right? Yeah. It's just listening, evergreen, all the time. It's bringing in people in marketing, bringing in people in design. Like I used to do the design for Belgian Boys, and I mean, there are many more talented people than me, and I think that comes to life right now, and I'm super proud of what our team has achieved. But like asking, something creepy that I do, I don't know if you do it sometimes, it's just like, go next to the shelf and see who picks your product up and ask why they picked it up. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, they must think I'm so weird. But like, if you really want to know, you have to ask.
Yeah, that's how you learn. Yeah.
Let's talk about building the brand. I always love to talk about that. And one of the things that you guys did, I think it was last year in 2021, was this partnership with Aerie. And it was a waffle van, I believe. Can you talk about that and this out-of-home experience? I just want to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was such a fun partnership. So Aerie had launched a waffle knit, like a sweater, t-shirt. It was like their fabric that was called a waffle. Right. And so we partnered up with them, giving away our Stroopwafel. We did this whole van that was going in many cities, New York, DC, I think it was Boston. And it was just like, okay, here's the waffle knit and the Belgian waffle. And it was really, really fun. I think really what our team in terms of brand have been thinking. So our mission is to spark that moment of joy for the US consumer. And we think about brand partnership as like where or what brand is giving you a happy experience where Belgian Boys can be complementary or can elevate that experience. We have another partnership with Dry Bar. So if you think about it, Dry Bar, woman, our consumer, purchase power, you go there, You sit for an hour, getting your hair done, you're happy, you're getting pampered, and then you get a Belgian Boys cookie. You're like, I'm happy already. Now you're giving me cookies. That's awesome. And next time you will see us on the shelves, you will be reminded of that happy experience. And I think when you do brand partnership, really thinking about brands that are aligned, but also the experience or the emotion you want to evoke in your consumer being like super important.
That's so smart too. Like it's one of the things that we talk about as well with our branding. I think a lot of people forget about that, like having that emotional connection to your customers. It's all about people put a lot of influence on how do things look, design, and that type of stuff. But like, how do you make your customer feel? Brands don't think enough about that. It's difficult though. There's an art. It's more of an art than a science. But if you could figure that out, that's a big thing right there.
What you just mentioned is funny because Pete, I remember early on when we were building out our B2B strategy, Pete kept talking about like salons and haircuts. He's like, people are just sitting there for so long. They want something to eat. We should figure it out. But like we weren't able to conceptualize it. And there you go. You guys figured it out.
Yeah.
I think I probably shot the idea down.
Yeah,
but you're right.
We're aligned on that one. That was a market ready. It was untapped, and it's still untapped in the meat snacks world. I don't know.
Well, at Dry Bar, they give you like a glass of champagne, so it's like literally like this amazing experience. And
I just thought about it because my wife, when she gets her hair done, she's there for like hours and hours. Every time she's before Uber Eats and all that was so popular. Now she just orders it herself, but she'd be like, "Hey, can you drop me off food?" And I'm like, "Man, this is crazy! Like, they don't sell anything there. Like, you're there for you're a captive audience. Why are they not selling you stuff?"
Well, not only don't they sell you something, but I mean, in Europe, it's very anywhere you go, right? You go to drink a coffee somewhere at a restaurant, you go to the hairdresser, you go wherever you go, you get a coffee, and next to the coffee, there's always an individually wrapped cookie. You always get that anywhere you go in Europe, in Belgium. And in America, like sometimes you feel bad to ask for a coffee or even a glass of water, I feel. And I mean, how can we bring that kind of custom into the American consumer? I was talking about it early. If you think about it, Americans drink coffee on the go, like on the street. You run with your cup. You're like texting on your phone. You're doing 100 things at once. Take a moment, enjoy, have a cookie. Like it's fine, right? It's like 3 minutes of your day. I bet you your day will be better.
I'm sold. I love the idea. That's good.
Coming out of COVID, I mean, how are you guys impacted as a business? How was your business split between like retail and e-commerce, and what challenges do you guys face?
So e-commerce we hadn't done yet at that point. We were really B2B, but lots of food service. So we were really big into the corporate campuses. We had a partnership with JetBlue before COVID. So that's kind of what alarmed us when COVID started, because all of a sudden there was no more airplanes, right? And that really put our business at a risk from a channel mix. We were, I think, CPG in the end, if you were able to pivot, you were able to pivot be fortunate in the pandemic, unlike restaurants. And we really focused on the retail strategy. We opened our website. We were fulfilling orders ourselves. It was like a whole thing. I think actually on the personal side, it was also hard, right? Like you had your teams, you had yourself, we had a newborn baby, and like I did almost burn out in the pandemic, and that was quite hard. I'm very grateful actually for that experience. I was introduced to mindfulness, and it changed my life. It really did, and thank God it did.
So I was reading somewhere, switching gears, about your community involvement, like related to, I think it was called the Birthday Party Project. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I love that. It's a smaller organization, but if I think about our mission, spreading happiness, spreading joys, some people can't afford to have a birthday party. And that's so sad, right? Like kids. And so we partnered up with the Birthday Foundation, and we're throwing kids' birthday parties. And like that brings me so much joy to know that there's happy kids getting a birthday, getting a delivery, getting waffles, like having fun. And I mean, I think there's so much amplification to do there. There's so much more that we can do, that we should do as small brands, and just resonated back to your mission.
So let's talk about innovation for a minute. So, you guys seem to have a lot of great innovation. I want to first find out, like, how do you think about that? What is your innovation process? Like, do you have somebody internally that's thinking of this stuff, or is it you, or who's doing that?
Yeah, so I do have someone internally. That's my husband. We joke about it, my butter half, pun intended. But Greg's really the innovator. He's the product guy. That's his passion, and he comes up with his products. He sets like barriers, and I think actually if I think about our whole journey, sometimes our innovation was good but less successful. I'll give you an example, like our cookies. We have great flavors of cookies, right? We have a raspberry tart, a lemon tart, we have a chocolate cookie. But if you think about it, it's quite horizontal in innovation, right? The consumer will try, choose, and stay with that. It's a different flavor. I think where we were really successful at innovation is our breakfast line. We went into a vertical innovation. We have a waffle, a pancake, a crepe, and a French toast. 4 totally different items that can totally be on one breakfast table at the same time. That household can enjoy all those 4 products. And we do see way more velocities, or how do you say it, like added to the basket, people buying 2 or 3, than with our cookies, where you make a conscious decision, I buy this or that. And with our breakfast, like I buy this and that. And so I think in that way it's really successful, and there's so much more exciting products coming. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, that kind of incrementality, that basket building, what you're talking about is
That's the
that's
word.
the brand. Yeah, no, that's
Sometimes,
but it's a
yeah.
huge unlock. Like, how do you figure that out? It's like, so I have a question. So how did you figure out that was working? Obviously you had the velocity data, but like, was it just something you stumbled on, you tested and tried, or did you have data that was telling you before you even launched this innovation, like this is what could work and this is what could be incremental to your current portfolio?
Right. I mean, we launched our crepes, pancakes, then our Belgian waffles. But then with our French toast, for instance, we did launch it on an end cap at Target. It was limited. It was like, let's see how it does, right? Not only did it exceed any velocity expectations that we had, the other product increased in velocity. So it didn't cannibalize, it just really augmented, like, oh, I love French toast. Oh, this brand also does pancakes. Let me take both. And I think when you get into a situation on, a 1-2 months kind of capped rotation, where you get that, not only is it not cannibalizing, it's actually bringing growth, you're onto something. And then we launched the product, the French toast, in June of that year, nationwide. Well, of last year, actually. This year, not last year, June 2020. Goes fast.
Yes, it goes very fast when you're having fun, right? So
Yes, every day, even on the day that suck.
let's talk about, let's just shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about you personally. Okay, so what is your superpower and why?
What's my superpower? I think it's the ability to remain positive even in like a super negative situation. Like, I believe that I'm able to just like, let's do this, let's go get this, and like really elevate and make stuff happy, even when it's like, when you see that people need it. Because sometimes you gotta be like, no, this like, But I think that's really something that I'm really good at.
That's difficult to do. And I think you're right about that. I think some people are born with the ability to have that, to be resilient in those types of situations and stay positive. And, it's funny, Rashid and I talk about, what was it about us that allowed us to get to this, to be successful with Chomps. And I think that's one of the big things. It's just we're resilient as hell. We have our mind set to something and things are not going our way. Everything might not be going our way, and we still continue working and working against it and finding the path. And so I think that's one of the things. I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people fail is they give up too soon. And I think you hear stories about that over and over and over again. You're like, oh,
Yeah. I mean, there's so many times that I was just like, how, like, how were we not knocked out already? Like, we threw so many punches. Yeah. And I do think, just like you two, I mean, I think having another person, I mean, for me, that's really been a huge, like, I wouldn't have been able to do this without Greg. I mean, for me, it's my spouse, right? But like,
he's pretty much my spouse at the end of the
day. It's like, I do think that having that co-founder and somebody that knows your strengths, your weaknesses, and being able to elevate each other on those hard moments, that's something I really, really value. And it's not a given. It shouldn't be taken for granted.
It is interesting because if I think about it, the hits earlier on hurt a lot more, but I think you build that muscle memory and resiliency. Like now, me at 8 years, like everything's gonna go wrong. Like at the end of the day, you just expect it, and it's less surprising. And that's like, it's interesting, folks that are kind of newer to the entrepreneur or like the food space or anything. Like at the end of the day, when you're playing in the food world, like especially on operations, it's all going to break. It just happens. And it's how do you make sure you don't do it twice, right? Put controls in place to make sure it doesn't happen again and just roll with the punches. But you would think the opposite. Like once you've been doing it so long and keep getting kicked, like at some point you're just kind of over it, but it's not. You gain kind of really thick skin.
Yeah. And I think also maintaining like perspective, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, okay, something goes wrong, we're not saving lives, right? Like we're not brain surgeons. Like there's not a life that depends on us being successful, right? So if like the truck doesn't come today and it will come tomorrow and it won't hit your November revenue, but it will hit your December revenue, it's okay, right? Like it's not the end of the world. And I think early on I was like, no. And now I'm just like, okay, on a span of 10 years, who cares if it happens today, tomorrow, or next month? And like just maintaining that perspective and like you said, like learning from the mistakes because they make you so much stronger. It's like, it's crazy how with time the wins are, I don't want to say less exciting. It's just like, okay, yay, that's great. But then what's going to be the next challenge? Because like, that's what I'm going to learn, right?
Yeah.
No, it's true. You kind of get desensitized to some of the big wins. That's why you have to kind of be intentional about celebrating the small wins or wins along the way, because it's exactly that. You get so many of them under your belt, and it's kind of like desensitized. I don't know why. Like Rashid and I, we see big numbers, and I'm sure you're the same thing. And you see big numbers, whether it's good or bad for you, and you're kind of just like, all right, that's the way it is. But if we would have seen that 10 years ago, we would have been like, either crying sad or like jumping out of our skin. But it is, things change over time. So let's talk about your background. Obviously, was in design. You're running full speed ahead right now in Belgian Boys. If you were not doing Belgian Boys, what would you be doing?
I would go like I'm still in fashion, but I wouldn't, because that was so toxic of a world, and that's why I left the fashion world. I really loved what I did. Honestly, I loved it so much. I love to design, but I was treated just like you're disposable. And that's really why we set out to make this like happy company, because of my toxic experience that I had there. I don't think I would have been in fashion still. Probably in like teaching or something.
Okay. Mindfulness.
Yeah. Most likely teaching. I love to teach.
So what's one thing that you've accomplished over the span of the company that you're most proud of?
I think the team, honestly, is the people. Like just the ability to bring in these like smart people. I'm like, wow. Yeah. Like it surprises me all the time that like this massive like knowledge, and that they want to do this and they want to be a part of this, and they get excited by this whole company that we're building, and we couldn't have been here without them. But like when I see it, my team, I just get really, really excited.
Awesome. So are you guys fully remote now?
Yeah, we're remote and we're everywhere. So we're like in the UK, in Belgium, France, Utah, Texas, California, like a bit all over.
So then how are you creating, like building out the culture and creating connectivity? Like, do you bring everyone together ever?
So we did bring everybody together. We did an annual retreat last year. We took our team to Iceland. It was the best trip of my life, honestly. But I do a lot around culture. Like culture is the one thing that gets me so passionate about people. Okay, think about it like that. I don't know how your weekly team meetings go, but ours went like this. What's your goal for the week? What's your challenges for the week? Everyone goes one by one, and then you see people multitasking and doing something else after they went. And I was like, no, that's not why I bring the team together. It's not a good reason. And so I changed it, and I was like, we called it Talk About It Tuesday, and we just talk about things that I see in my life, that I get exposed to, a conversation that I had, and I bring it to the team. So we watch TED Talks, we read books and discuss that, like Radical Candor from Kim Scott, watching Simon Sinek, conversations like how to deal with stress, how to deal with failure, imposter syndrome. And I believe that all those things that we're doing create that bond of trust and culture, and we're super open about it. We have an amazing handbook that we put together. It honestly looks like a marketing tool, and I'm like so proud of it. And yeah, it's just part of who we are. Our values are embodied in us, and we highlight when people live by our values. And I think it's about, it can't just be something that's written on your wall. You really need to lead by example, but also highlight when someone else does.
I mean, it's great ideas. It's something that not just we struggle with all the time, but I think a lot of companies in this new environment. But it seems like you're taking some amazing strides.
I love it. You're invited every Tuesday, 11 a.m.
Yes, we'll be there. I like that a lot. So instead of just doing like the recommendation to read a book or sending out a link on Slack being like, you guys should watch this or whatever, you're actually saying at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, we're going to watch this together. And then we're going to talk about, like, have a debrief or whatever and talk about what we just watched.
Exactly.
That's cool.
It's really, or one time, I mean, one of my favorite Talk About It Tuesdays, I brought a person and he does laughing yoga. It was the funniest thing we ever done. We were just like cracking up on our call, literally peeing our pants. It was like just like laughing, fake laughs and real laughs, and that creates culture. Like you're not in the same room, and you gotta put people together through experiences that bonds them, right? And yeah, there are the expos, the travels, but it's not all the team. And I think also like doing breakout rooms where you have a graphic designer talk to a ops person, because these two people usually don't talk, right? Like they're in different worlds. And so ask each other, hey, what's your favorite holiday tradition?
It's interesting. We had our 10-year anniversary, and it was the first time that we brought the team together in Chicago. And you always wonder like how they will mesh well, because I think it's a good measure of have you hired folks that kind of all work together from a cultural perspective. And it was pretty crazy to see this group of people come together, and it was like they knew each other, right? And so like that was a good measure to show like we're at least doing something right. But especially when you have like that accountant interacting with the salesperson, interacting with the brand manager, where they look at the world so differently, but it's all based on the same core values and culture. It's like they come together like they've always known each other. So for the listeners, where's the best place to find Belgian Boys products?
Well, you can find us in retailers nationwide at Target, Walmart, Whole Foods, Kroger, Central Market, and yeah.
Awesome. What about online at all?
On Amazon.
Okay. Well, Anouk, it was awesome chatting with you today and learning more about the brand and your background. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me. This was really, really fun.
Yeah.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
Bye.